let me check out the scripts. Okay, so Padma Web, and here under the scripts, the last script which we have studied is about launching a Chrome browser, and even I have given scenarios for your practice to work on, okay, to work on specifically a different browser. Right, that's what we have studied. Fine. So the next point of what we are gonna do right now means, let me create a new class, web12 with the main methods, wherein which I would like to run the script using HTML unit driver. The significance of this HTML unit driver is it will run the script in the invisible mode. Okay, the HTML unit driver is the one which will launch and execute the script in an invisible mode itself. Without launching the browser, it's gonna execute the script. The HTML unit driver is the one it's gonna run the script without launching the browser in an invisible mode. So driver.get, I'm specifying the app URL appen.com, and then driver.findElement by.id as b underscore form underscore q. Okay, dot Senkis Surendra. So this is the basic script I have written, and now let me try to run this script. So prior that, system.out.println, this is the last line in the code. Okay, this is the last line in the code. Run as a Java application. It's getting executed. See, this is the last line got returned, but we haven't seen whether the browser was launched or not. The significance of the HTML unit driver itself is to run the script without launching the browser itself. Okay, so the significance of this particular one is to run the script without launching the browser itself. That's what the objective of this particular one. Okay, so that's what the objective of this particular one. Fine. So the next point which we need to consider out over here is, okay, that's fine. So I just created this basic script. Usually in a project level we are not gonna use this HTML unit driver. Just for our reference we are studying this concept now. Okay, fine. So the next point which we need to consider here is, okay, so once after we studied about all these browsers, okay, so once after we studied about all these browsers, the next and most important thing which we need to know is about handling of frames. Okay, handling of a frames. Okay, handling of a frames. So how we are gonna handle any frame in a web page? So but what is a frame? See, assume that this is a web page. This web page was divided into multiple frames here. Okay, so developer while developing the application, he will design this app into these many pages. Okay, so he will design this app into these many frames inside that. For suppose let me make a note as frame 0, and this is a frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, or not even 0, we can treat it as a frame 4. Frame 4, this is a frame 4, 1, 2, 3 and a 4. So whenever we are working on a WebDriver, so for suppose here is a button, this is a button. Okay, let me make a note as a B1. So B1 is the button name here. Okay, so B1 is the button name, and here another button we have under the frame 4 is B2. Okay, so B2 is a button which is inside a frame. Whenever we are working on a WebDriver, so assume that this button 1 is having a ID property as a 1, and this button 2 is having a ID property as a 2. So whenever we are using driver.find element by .id of 1 dot click, your WebDriver will identify that particular button and it will perform click operation on that button. Whereas whenever you are using driver.find element by .id as a 2 click, your WebDriver will throw some exceptions stating that element not found in that web page. Okay, stating that element not found in the web page. Such kind of a message it's gonna display. Okay, element not found exception message it's gonna display. Why? As we know that both object 1 and 2 are on a web page, while for the second object it is throwing an error message means the simple reason is the second object is inside a frame. So in WebDriver, whenever we are working, or else whenever we are working on an object inside a frame, then we need to ask our WebDriver to switch to the frame first and then identify the objects. Okay, to switch to the frame first and then identify the object. For suppose in this example, the frame is having a name as a floor. So prior to these two commands, the second command, I would like to add a command which is driver.find element by name as 4. This is a frame property and I am storing it in an web element fr is equal to now driver.switch to dot frame fr. So it means we are asking our WebDriver to switch its execution from a web page to this frame. This frame which is having a name property as a 4. Hence it will switch to the frame first. From this object, okay, from this page, the WebDriver execution will switch to this frame. Hence it will identify an object and hence the below command will execute successfully. Hence, below command will execute successfully. So the ultimate point is, whenever we are working on a web page, if there is a frame or if the object is inside a frame, then we need to ask our WebDriver to switch to that frame first and then perform the operations. Okay, to switch to the frame first and then perform that particular operations. That's what we need to specify. But immediately a simple question will rise in our mind. How come we know whether that object is in a frame or not? Right? Usually this kind of a question will comes in our mind. Okay, usually this kind of a question will comes in our mind. The simple answer for this one is jQuery draggable. I'm just opening this jQuery draggable application on a Firefox browser. I'm trying to open this URL on a Firefox browser, and here right click on this object. If you observe, before inspect element you can find a new option which is at this frame. We can find an option which is at this frame, with which we can confirm that our object is there inside a frame. So whenever you perform a right click operation, you can find an option this frame or a view frame. So with which we can confirm that your object is there inside a frame itself. Okay, your object is there inside a frame itself. Fine. Done. Okay, good. So is this point clear for everybody? So how to identify a frame in a web page? A simple point. Okay, how to identify a frame in a web page? Is this point clear for everyone? Saujanya, Padma, Ashok, Gibi, Venkat, Vijay. Cool. So the next point out over here is, okay, that's fine. So we just identified this frame. So in this example, we have a frame 1, 2, 3, 4. So in a web page, usually frame will have a separate HTML. That's the reason it will be difficult for your WebDriver to identify that. And collection of frames, we can call it as a frame set. Usually all the frames will start with either iframe or frame tag. Okay, all the frames in a web page will start with either iframe or else a frame tag. Okay, all the objects will start with an iframe or else a frame tag. Okay, fine. That up to here, all the objects will start with a frame iframe or else a frame tag. That up to here. So let's switch to the document here. A HTML frame. What is an HTML frame? HTML frames are used to divide your browser window into multiple sections, where each section can load a separate HTML documentation. Collection of frames, we can call it as a frame set. For suppose there is a frame inside a web page, it means the HTML code for the frame is differ and the HTML code for the main page is differ. Whenever you are trying to perform an operations on a frame, for sure you need to switch to frame, else no such element found exception will comes into a picture. How can we identify a frame? Means whenever you perform a right click operation, find this frame info, with which we can confirm that this object is there inside a frame itself. Okay, this object is there inside a frame itself. Done up to here. So generally, in order to switch to any frame in a web page, there are certain commands in WebDriver. Okay, in order to switch to any frame, there are certain commands in a WebDriver, which is driver.switch to frame. Such kind of a commands we have in a WebDriver. So we need to use those commands to switch to that particular frame. In order to perform operations on a frame, for sure we need to switch to that. Okay, fine. So the first scenario what I would like to do out over here is, so let me create a script for this application and try to identify this object without handling a frame. So I'm creating a new. So what I am doing means from the previous class I'm copying till the browser opening. Web 13 with the main methods, new Firefox driver. Instead of a bing.com, I would like to open this URL. And I would like to maximize my browser too. Driver.manage.window.maximize is a command which will maximize the browser. Okay, window maximize is a command which is gonna maximizing this browser instance. Okay, window maximize is a command which is going to maximize this particular browser instance. Fine. Done. Now, right click on this object, inspect element with a firebug. So it is having an ID property as a draggable. So here, driver.find element by.id. So here I am asking my WebDriver to identify the object itself. Okay, I'm just asking my WebDriver to just identify this object. That's it. Nothing more than that. Driver.find element by.id. Now at the end add these two commands to terminate the browser instance. Now let's try to run this script as a Java application. So run as a Java application. So it's getting executed. It should throw some exception. The reason is the desired object whatever you have specified is inside a frame. So here unable to locate an element. Okay, unable to locate an element. So ID is equal to draggable. Fine. Done up to here. Okay. So the next point of what we need to do is, okay, so we just need to perform further operations. So it means we need to identify the frame and then we need to switch to that particular frame. Okay, so we need to identify the frame and we need to switch to the frame. So before moving ahead, just give me a second guys, just give me a second. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, so the point out over here is in order to work on this particular object, for sure I need to switch to that frame. Okay, so how can I switch to that frame? Okay, so let's try to identify the properties. Okay, so here what I'm doing right now means right click on this object, inspect the element with a firebug. So here as we discussed, this is an object property. If you scroll up, you can find an HTML body tag, a head, HTML, and there is a iframe tag here. So ultimately, if you observe, this frame is having a separate HTML. This frame is having a separate HTML, and this is an iframe tag wherein which it is having a class as a demo frame. Copy the class name. Okay, copy the class name. So here go back, and now what I'm doing means driver dot find element by dot class name. So I'm creating a web element for frame. Okay, I'm creating a web element for frame, and then driver dot switch to dot frame fr. So this is the frame which I'm asking my WebDriver to switch to. Okay, so here this frame is a web element. Still we have two more options to switch to the frame. Okay, which is either a integer or else a name. So generally we will specify the name property here. Okay, so we will specify the name property here, or else sometimes here we will specify frame 0. It means the first frame. So like that we will specify. As of now, we have an object property, hence I am specifying this particular property here. Okay, as of now we have an object property, hence I am specifying this object property. Guys, is this point clear for everybody? How to switch to a frame? Or do you have any questions for me? Venkat, Sirisha, Padmavati and everyone. Cool. Now, let me rerun this program once again and see how this is going to work. Run as a Java application. So it's getting executed. This time it will identify that and it will terminate the browser. The reason is here I haven't specified any operation, guys. I just asked it to identify the object and later it will terminate the browser. So the ultimate point of what we noticed is if there is a frame inside a web page, how to identify that. That's what we have studied. So guys, so here, okay, so if there is a frame inside a web page, we can simply identify that. So that's what we have studied. So the next and most important thing is the application where we are. It's a jQuery UI. It's a draggable app. It means we can drag this around. Okay, we can drag this object. Okay, but we don't know using which command we can perform this drag and drop. Okay, using which we can perform this drag and drop. Okay, so how this is going to work? In WebDriver, we have a actions class concept with which we can perform any kind of UI operations. Okay, the only thing is using these actions class we can perform any kind of UI operations. Okay, so the point out over here is how can we create an object to an actions class? What is an actions class? So over here, in order to perform all these kinds of an operations, to perform a scroll or right click anything, we are going to perform these actions class. Okay, so we are going to perform these actions class. So actions class which is built to perform multiple actions, and this interface is used to perform those actions. I will show you with an example. So now in the current scenario, I am treating it as a web element DST. So destination, I have given it as an web element. Now actions A is equal to new actions. I am passing this a driver instance and I am importing the required packages. Okay, I am importing the required packages. After that, A dot, in order to perform a drag and drop operations, we have two different commands. Okay, so the two different commands are, okay, drag and drop, and another one is a drag and drop by. So drag and drop, and another one is a drag and drop by. So how can we handle them? Which scenario we are going to use these commands? If I know the source, what I need to drag, and if I know the destination where I need to drop. So what I need to drag and where I need to drop. In such a cases we can go for drag and drop. Whereas if we know what we need to drag and if we don't know where we need to drop, then we can go for drag and drop by command. Okay, we can go for this drag and drop by command. Okay, we can go for this drag and drop by command. Okay, so we can go for this drag and drop. What I need to drag and where I need to drop. So based on this one, we are going to choose one corresponding command, either drag and drop or else a drag and drop by. We are going to choose from these two. So in the current scenario, I know what I need to drag, but I don't know the destination where I need to drop. In such a cases, which command we need to prefer, guys? Either drag and drop or drag and drop by. Which command we need to prefer? As per this scenario, we can go for a drag and drop by command. The destination comma I am giving generally as 150 comma 150 as a two different coordinates. Okay, so as a 150 comma 150 as a two different coordinates. Cool. Am I clear for everybody so far till adding this drag and drop by command, or do you have any questions for me till now? Guys, is this point clear for everybody? Selection of drag and drop by command, or do you have any questions? Clear. Cool. Drag and drop.
Surendra,
Yeah, Vijay, please go ahead.
can you just explain the statement actions A equal to new actions driver?
See, if you remember, select S is equal to new select of reading. Did you remember this command? In the last class, we have seen that we created an object to a selected class for which we passed the drop-down location. The same way, to work on these actions class, we need to pass the Webdriver instance on which browser you want to implement these actions class. See, I would like to implement this one on this driver. So complete the driver instance. That's it. I just passed it as a driver as my instance as a parameter. That's it.
Okay, yeah.
This is similar to that of the previous command, whatever we have used.
And one more question here: if I try to identify an object, if I'm trying to look for an object, if that is available, so is there any true and false? How I can how does it return true or false if the object exists? Do we have to use if condition, or do we have any other methods?
See, I think
Return true or false.
we already covered this concept. is an example which is whenever you are trying to print all the drop down values, okay, whenever we are trying to print all the drop down values, so here we used an is displayed command. The significance of a is displayed is it is gonna check whether something is displayed or not. It's gonna return either true or a false. That's what we have studied. So is
Okay,
displayed
yeah,
is
got
the command which we have to perform this action. And now, in the current scenario, guys, if you observe, drag is a one action and drop is another action. We have two different actions. So, these two different actions, I am using this build method, I am making into a single action. Using this build, two different actions, we are making it as a single action. Okay, two different actions, I am making it as a single action. And last, perform. Okay, after that, I'm just using a perform command. Perform. A dot drag and drop by perform. Now, let me rerun this script. Run as a Java application. Let's see how this script is going to work. Okay, so it's opening up the application. So it performed the action. So let me rerun for better visibility. So it's getting executed and here it dragged from here to here. The object got dragged till here and it terminated the browser. The object got dragged and it terminated the browser. That's it. So this is the way how can we handle these operations. Okay, so this is the way how can we handle this draggable operations. Here you have a droppable. The only difference between draggable and a droppable is in a draggable we know the source what we need to drag but we don't know the destination where we need to drop. Whereas the moving on to a droppable, here we know both the source and the destination. In such a cases we can go for a drag and a drop a command. So I'm copying my previous codes and I'm creating a new code just by placing that one. So copy paste a web 14. Let me open this web 14 here and now this time the URL is a droppable. Change this URL to droppable and then here right click on this object inspect element. It is having an ID as a draggable. Right click on this object inspect element. It is having ID as a droppable. So go back. This one I'm changing it as an SRC. Web element destination is equal to driver dot find element by dot ID. That's it. I just created an ID property for that. So it means I created a source and a destination. Now a dot, I know the source and a destination, hence I can go for a drag and drop command directly. Drag and drop SRC and a destination, as these are two different actions I am building and I am performing that action. When I run this script as a Java application, let's see how this is going to work. Cool. Done up to here, guys. Okay, so is this point clear for everybody?
Surendra, I have a question here.
Yeah.
The dot build, right, build command, is there another place where we can use this build, or is it the only place where we use it?
See, simple point of why we are using this build means whenever we are using a composite actions like this, in such a cases, with this build, we are asking our WebDriver to build these multiple actions into a single action. In such scenarios, we are using this build. So we don't have the uses of a build in another scenario. So we are using this build with respect to actions class itself. As we are gonna perform a different kinds of UI operations using an actions class. Okay. So we are not gonna use this one anywhere apart from here. Cool. So done up to here. So the next point is if I executed that, it performed the drag and drop and it executed successfully. And now within the same page, I would like to cover the similar applications. See here, we have a resizable. For this resizable guys, if you observe, I can perform drag operation of this one. Okay, so I can perform this one as a draggable. So I don't know any destination. I just need to perform the source operation itself. So for which I am copying this web 13 and I am placing that code once again web 15 and I am renaming it as a web 15. So here in this web 15 I am changing the application URL to resizable. And one small point of which we need to remember is whenever you are working on a jQuery UI, we are gonna use switch to frame concept. Okay, we are gonna use a switch to frame concept for sure. Okay, so we are gonna use this switch to frame concept for sure. Okay, fine. Done up to here. So for this particular resizable, I need to see the simple point is as of now, this jQuery UI contains these scenarios which are draggable. For suppose if your application contains these kind of a drag and a drop functionality, you can use this logic. See the point what we are discussing means we are discussing all the logics with one application. These logics might be there on your application. Okay, so it's not mandatory for you all to practice on the application whatever I am explaining. So you can practice from your end as well. Okay, on whatever the app you want. If that app is having these scenarios, go ahead and practice that app. That's it, nothing more than that. And now I would like to perform a resize operation with this one itself. Now right click on this object, inspect element with a firebug. It is having a class name which is a lengthy class name. I thought I don't want to go with my class name. So I'm switching to fire path. I'm choosing an XPath and I'm identifying the XPath for this object. So copy this XPath from the Firebug, go to the Eclipse editor, change this one to XPath and replace the XPath property whatever we have a copy. That's it. Replace the XPath property whatever we have a copy. And later Using an actions class, in this scenario, I don't know my destination, hence I am using a drag and drop by command by default. Nothing changed over there. Okay, nothing changed over there. That's it. Done up to here. Now, let's rerun this program. Run as a Java application. This time, it will perform the resize operation first. Let's see how this is going to work. So it did resized up to here, and after some time it will terminate the browser too. So this is the way how can we perform a resize operation. And another one is a slider. See, we have a slider. For this slider, the only thing is I can scroll horizontally. So it means the y-axis is not there, and even I know the source but I don't know the destination. Hence in this case also I can use only a drag and a drop by command. So I am copying this codes and I am pasting this code with a name as a web 16. And now switching on to this web 16, change the app URL to slider, change the app URL to slider, and then here identify this object properties. So it is having a UI slider. Again I am switching to file path and I am trying to get the XPath for this object. Copy the XPath and specify the XPath within the program. But in this scenario, for the drag and drop by, I know my source, I know my X coordinate, and I know that there is no Y coordinate, hence I am leaving it as a 1. As there is no Y coordinate, hence I am leaving it as a 1. So it means it's gonna rotate horizontally. So when I run my test script again as a Java application, it's gonna execute and it should perform a slide operation. See here, it's gonna execute. It performed a slide and it will terminate the browser. That's it. So we used a drag and drop by command here. So in these different scenarios, we used a drag and drop by command. Guys, am I clear for everybody with respect to these commands, or do you have any questions for me? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So the next point what we need to do is, okay, so here we performed on these applications and we have date picker. See, this looks like a text field. This one looks like a text field. Hence, what I'm doing means I'm copying this codes, pasting this code once again with a name as a 17, and now here web 17. I don't want any other commands, hence I am deleting all unnecessary commands. So the only code it contains, Webdriver object creation, the URL should point to the date picker. So copy the URL from the browser and update it in our Eclipse editor. Control V. I just updated that. And I asked it to switch to a frame. So after switching, this one looks like a text field. So which is having an ID property. So whenever it is a text field, for sure you can use a send keys command. So what I can use here, driver dot find element by dot id dot send keys. I can use the send keys command. The data format is, this is the data format, month, day and an year. So here I'm choosing the day as 11, and after some time I am asking it to terminate the browser. Let's see whether it is updating the date or not. So when we run the script, it's pointing to the date picker and it is gonna work on that app. So it just entered the date. This is okay, generic scenario. But generally, it is whenever you are clicking an enter button, a calendar is popping up. So we need to select a date from a calendar. So right click, inspect the element with a firebug on any date. I noticed that the date is starting with a tag name as a. If at all any object is starting with a tag name as a, we can identify using a linked text. So here all the dates in the calendar are starting with a tag name as a. Great. So let me create a new program now. Copy these codes. Create a new program and name it as an 18, and here in this 18th program, so I'm not performing any send keys. I'm just asking my WebDriver to perform a click operation. So whenever we performed a click operation, a calendar got displayed. Driver.find element by link text 30 dot click. So it means I am asking to identify a link which is having a text as a 30. Now when I run my script as a Java application, this time it will select the date 30 from the current month itself. It will select the date from the current month itself. Let's see. 6:30. But assume that my requirement is to select the date in a next month. Manually also, if you would like to select a next month, we will click on a next button. Inspect element with a firebug. Copy the XPath for the next button too. So I'm capturing the XPath for the next button. Now, based on your need, you can get this or switch this XPath. So here, how I am going to do right now means, copy this whole code, paste it again with a 19th script, and here in the 19th scripts, what I'm doing right now means, after clicking on a date picker, I would like to know this value. So here I'm trying to get this one. This is the XPath for this. So copy the XPath, go back here, driver.find element by XPath. This is the whole XPath. Dot get the text, or else what we can do, for the month we have a separate XPath June. So directly I can specify this one to get the XPath for June. So I copied this information. String month is equal to, okay, so I just gathered the current month. System.out.println current month is plus, okay, current month is plus a month variable. And then what I'm doing right now, let me print this value to the console. See, the only point of what I'm doing out over here is, see, I'm trying to get my current month. From there, I would like to click on next button as I want to go for August. Okay, as I want to go for August. Okay, fine. So how this is going to work means, right click, run as, a Java application. It should return the month. Okay, it should return the month. So let's see how this is going to work. So in the console, it returned as a June. Okay, in the console, it returned as a June. So what I can do means, whenever this month is June, okay, whenever this month is equal to June, if month dot equals ignore case value is equal to June, okay, if the month value is equal to June, then int I is equal to, I'm defining it as, okay, I'm defining it as 6. Okay, the June month, I'm defining it as a 6. And as per my need, my desired month, August, okay, int AUG is equal to 8. Okay, int AUG is equal to 8. So the only point of what I would like to do means, for int I is equal to 6, the current month, I less than or equal to AUG, I plus plus. Okay, so int I is equal to 6, I less than August. So the objective of this for loop is, I would like to click on a next those many times. So here, this is the next button. Copy the next button XPath. So here, driver dot find element by dot XPath dot click. Now, when I run this script as a Java application, try to observe the browser how this is gonna work. So it's gonna open up this application, it's gonna pick the calendar and it's gonna set it to September. So the point here is it was not supposed to be equal, it's just less than. So when I run this script as a Java application, if you observe, it should select August. Okay, it should select August. For suppose, let's see here, in the date picker, it's just picking and it selected August 30th. The only logic what I did over here in my current program is, I know if I would like to select for August, the August month is an 8. Okay, and I'm picking the current month as a June and I am defining the I value as a 6 and it is less than August. So rotate this for loop till the value is August. So it is rotating for 2 times and we can select a desired value. And from here we can select a date. For suppose if I would like to select a December, I am giving it as a 12. And now when I run this script as a Java application, it will rotate the loop or else it will click on a next button till that particular value. See, December got selected. That's it. So this is the way how can we select the future dates also just by retrieving the current date. So here in this scenario we used a get text on an object. The significance of this get text command is it will get the text from the specified objects. It will get the text from the specified object. Guys, is this point clear for everybody? Is this point clear for everybody? Great. So, the last scenario in this jQuery application is a dialog box. So, with this dialog box, the only operation we can perform is a close. Right click, inspect element with a firebug, switch to the fire path, get the XPath for this one. So driver dot find element by dot xpath data close. This is the scenario which you need to practice. Okay, scenario for your practice, which is a dialog box. Okay, fine. I'm making a note here. Practice dialog box closing. Okay, done. So that's all I have. See you again in the tomorrow session. Thank you guys. Bye bye. Good night.
As you can see over here, I'm trying to run the application. We're showing some error.
Yeah, no
I don't
problem.
know what.
Proceed. Just go ahead with the proceed.
Yeah, so what is happening, like Firefox is opening but with a blank page.
Yeah. So the problem out over here is Venkat. Can you please
Yes.
go to the jar file, whatever you have added? The Java version, whatever you have added is Selenium Java 2.48, right? That's what you have added, right?
Yeah,
See,
yes.
the main problem here is, okay, let me share my screen for a few seconds. So the main problem out over here is each and every Selenium Java version is having a browser compatibility. So the issue here, whatever you are encountering is with the 2.48.2, it doesn't support latest version of your Firefox browser. Okay. So to cross check that, can you please show me your error message to confirm whether this one is the valid or not? Can you please show your console? Just open your Eclipse editor and show me the error message what it is saying.
No,
And
so should I run the script or?
yeah, just run it and it will show some error messages for us in the console window.
Okay, okay, all right. I
I
will.
just want that error message. See, the point why I am asking you means whenever
Yes.
you are getting error messages, the first and the most important thing what we need to do is copy that error message, the first line of that error message, and try to put it in a Google
Okay.
directly. Okay, so
Oh, yeah.
we can get a better immediate solution. And first of all, the reason what we need to understand here is why it is throwing that error message. What is the root cause behind that? We need to understand that issue. For that particular reason, you have to copy that error message. Few of the error messages, just by looking into that, you can understand that what exactly the error message will speak. Whereas in some scenarios, it's not possible for us to understand. Okay, it's not possible for us to understand just by looking into those error messages. For that reason,
Yeah.
the only thing is you need to copy paste in a Google, and from there itself you can understand that issue and the solution as well. Just a second. Let me
So,
try to share my
okay,
screen here. Just give me a minute.
okay, okay.
Okay. See, here is a Word document for me. Wait. So this whole document generally contains various kinds of issues, whatever we encounter whenever we are working on an Webdriver program. And here in this scenario, you see, cannot find the binary path, error line. See, this kind of an error message will display for you. Arc Selenium Firefox are
Yeah.
not connected exception unable to connect to this port. The solution is you have to change these Selenium Java versions, or the another solution is downgrade your Firefox browser version. Okay. So the problem out over
Mm-hmm.
here why we are doing this. Okay. As I said that 2.48.2 is having a browser compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in order to work on this one, we need to go for an older browser version. Just like a Firefox, a 20th version or something like that. With that version, it will fix your issue. So it means uninstall the current Firefox browser and reinstall a previous version. Okay, reinstall a previous version. what I can do for you means I can give you access to the, okay, so I can give you access to the Firefox driver executable file. Okay, so
Okay, yeah, that will
directly
be good. Yeah.
download, and it is a previous version of a Firefox driver. Okay, so
Okay.
I will give you access to that particular file which you can download from your end. Okay,
Okay. All right, sir. Yeah.
so
Thank you.
cool. Done up to here. This is the thing. And generally,
Yeah.
what I will do additionally means the Word document, whatever I have shown to you now, I will give you
Yeah.
access to everyone for that Word document. This Word
Okay.
document contains the most commonly occurred issues and solutions for all of them were mentioned here. Okay, so
Yeah.
a general issues and a quite common solutions to handle them was mentioned out over here. So which I would like, which I have just shared in an email. Probably you will get it in a few seconds. Okay, so the most common issues in a WebDriver and the solutions, I just shared it in an email which you people receive in a few more seconds. Okay, this will be helpful for you to understand whenever you are executing. If you encountered an issue, what is the solution and other things, you can understand just by simply. Okay, fine, that up to here. Okay, so let's switch to another issue. Okay, so Vijay, please explain your issue.
Yes, yes. See, I'm trying to launch the browser with the mail.yahoo.com,
Okay,
but I don't. Two tabs are opening with this execution with this script. If I run this script, right? So
okay.
I'm just running.
Did you open that application manually and check how many tabs it is opening?
Okay. Yeah, I'll open it.
See, one point out over here is basically these two
Uh-huh.
tabs are default browser settings tabs itself. Okay, so if you observe the first tab, it is specifying the Firefox features. So whenever you are launching a browser, for suppose, assume that you are launching an IE browser. Whenever you are launching an IE browser, by default you, which will be navigated to MSN, right? So by default, usually whenever you are launching a specific browser, it will navigate to an MSN page, which was set already in a predefined settings. The same way, whenever you are launching a Firefox browser, it has showing us the first option as the Firefox browser features, and another one is the navigating to Skype. So which two are a browser specific itself, which we no need to think about them. Okay. And another point of why it is launching those two things means usually whenever we are asking our web driver to launch a specific browser, then what it will do means it will go to the folder where the browser was installed, and from there it will try to launch a browser. For that reason, whatever the browser your WebDriver is opening, it doesn't contain any cookies information. Okay, generally WebDriver is gonna launch your browser from your system where the Firefox executable file is there. It's gonna launch as a new browser itself, so it will be opening up certain features. That's not a problem basically in order to execute this stuff. Vijay.
But yeah, but how to reduce? I mean, uh, so what I have to do here to launch only one browser here? Is it
See,
default settings?
so you need to change it in a browser default settings itself. So you need to check out in a browser settings which one it is the pointing, and you need to change just those browser settings. That's it. Nothing more than that. So you have in a browser, whenever you are launching mark it as a default page or some kind of a setting, we usually enable in a browser, right? So just disable those settings in your browser. Nothing more than that.
Okay.
Okay, this launching of the two browsers is not specific to your WebDriver. Okay, it's default with your
Oh,
browser. That's the first point. And Another small point out over here is, guys, that I am uploading all the test scripts to this folder. We have already this Webdriver running notes document. Okay, so I am uploading these test scripts as well, so which will be helpful for your reference. Okay, which will
Okay.
be
Yeah,
helpful
sure.
for your reference as well. Okay, so I'm just
Yeah.
making these scripts as version 1.0. So it means when usually on day to day we upload the scripts, right? We will update the scripts. So I will change this version to 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0 like that. So V1.0 is an initial version. Okay, V1.0 is an initial version where which has all the test scripts, whatever we discussed so far. So fine. So I think I forgot to upload the yesterday's video to the Google Driver folder, which I am uploading right now. You will get it in another 15 minutes. Okay, you will get this updated video in just 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, fine then. So
Yeah.
that's all I have.
Yeah.
See you again in the tomorrow's session. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Have a
Bye.
good day.